What's going on, everyone? Today we're going to see how good Keldeo is in Pokemon Black 2. He's the fourth Sword of Justice in this group for this generation, and arguably the youngest in reference to the movie. Keldeo is a water and fighting type Pokemon with the ability Justified. Justified increases the attack stat by one stage for each dark type attack inflicted on the Pokemon with this ability. The rules for this run will be in the description below, but it is the standard solo run. Keldeo has a base stat total of 580. It has base 91 HP, 72 attack, 90 defense, 129 special attack, 90 defense, and 108 speed. Overall, we're pretty fast and hit hard with special attacks, but our attack stat isn't anything to write home about. Let's look at his move pool for this generation. As you can see, we get some viable options. We start off with Aqua Jet, which is a priority water type attack, and we get Bubble Beam at 13, but we don't learn very good special attacks. The best one, in my opinion, is Surf, and we already saw how powerful that was in the Palkia run, but with its weak attack stat, we're going to need some powerful moves at some point in order to compete with Pokemon we're weak against. Not only that, but it doesn't have a good TM learn move pool that benefits its special attack. This isn't going to be the event Keldeo, so Secret Sword will not be a move that we learned at this time, so having a good, strong, fighting type special move is out of the question since Focus Blast has terrible accuracy. So now we can get into the story. I gave my rival Snivy, which gives him Superior, which is arguably the most difficult Pokemon to battle. Since we start with Aqua Jet, you can see that we have to use it numerous times before we can actually take him down. Snivy is a grass type, so that means he's going to resist our water attacks. We're Quirky Nature, by the way, which means that we neither get a stat boost nor a stat deficit, which is pretty solid since we're going to need our attack stat in order to clear this challenge. Thankfully, we get a better move at level 7. The rival here actually gets us to low health, but then he chooses to use status moves and not attack us at all, so that was pretty great. There were a ton of things that I wanted to include in this video, but it came out to over an hour, so in order to fit the main battles in this run, we've cut out some of the unnecessary things like the second rival battle, a majority of the Team Plasma stuff, Pokestar Studios, and some of the dialogue from the protagonists. It just felt like there was a ton of stuff to include, and I don't think I could do the main story justice if it felt rushed the entire duration of the video. With that being said, after the events at the ranch, we get the okay to battle the first gym leader from Alder. In this generation, Charon is now a gym leader and he uses normal types. By now we've learned Double Kick, which is great since it's a stab move and can knock out 2 of his Pokemon. He starts out by sending out the weakest Pokemon in this generation, Patrat, which goes down to 1 Double Kick, but Lillipup comes out and it takes us a little bit of time to defeat him since we got him to healing range. Lillipup uses Work Up to increase its attack and special attack stat by 1 stage. After Charon heals him, we land a Double Kick to knock out the remaining HP to get the first gym badge. This battle wasn't all that bad. We didn't take a lick of damage, which is always nice. Now that we've defeated Charon, we get the TM for Work Up. Work Up increases Keldeo's attack and special attack by 1 stage. Normally it learns this move at level 61, but now it's going to come in handy since we're going to be able to strengthen ourselves to increase our overall damage output. With 1 gym badge down, we can head straight over to Verbank City and battle against Roxy, the second gym leader. So Roxy is the second gym leader in this game, and she's a rocker and a poison type user. I wonder if she knows Pierce from Sword and Shield and if they've made any albums together. Anyways, now we're at level 15 and have learned Bubble Beam, and I taught Work Up to Keldeo, which will make taking on Roxy's Pokemon seem like a cakewalk. Unless I get poisoned. I didn't even heal after the last battle, which was fine as I start setting up against the Coughing, which attacks me to a little less than half health, but I had an Oranberry equipped to heal 10 HP, which allows me to use Work Up one last time. It does take me a while to get set up as I get put to under half health, but we managed to prevail as 1 Bubble Beam knocks out the Coughing. Whirlipede is next. We attack with Bubble Beam, but it does hang on by a thread. It counters us with Venoshock to get us to 12 HP. Roxy does heal it, only to have us attack with Aqua Jet on that turn and Bubble Beam on the next for the knockout and win. I should have healed before I battled her, but since we have a base defense and special defense stat of 90, I wasn't super worried because we can basically tank any move that hits us at this level. Now that we have 2 gym badges, there are a couple of things to do in order to get to the mainland of the region, as we're currently at the southwestern part of the map. Those 2 things being Pokestar Studios and battling a Team Plasma Grunt. Once we complete those requirements, we enter the building to request a ride, but we meet a rival there who is also going in the same direction. Once the conversation ends, we get a nice little cutscene on the boat as we head towards Castelia City to continue our journey and to battle the 3rd gym leader, Berg. Here in Castelia City, we head to the third gym, but it looks like Berg isn't here. You know who is here? I'm sorry, these jokes are getting old, but we do find Iris here. And if you didn't know, spoiler alert, she is the champion in this game. She tells us that Team Plasma is hiding out, and she thinks she knows where, so we follow her to the sewers where our rival joins up with us. I actually got lost, but it turns out the grunts were super close to the entrance. After beating two grunts, we actually meet Berg here, and now we can head over to the gym after he gives us strength and we meet with another Team Plasma member, Colress. We end up meeting Berg at the gym, and this is a very difficult gym early on for a number of reasons. 1, because we have a low attack stat. 2, because we have a pretty bad move selection up until this point, and 3, because I'm at a complete disadvantage as you'll see. He not only has 1, but 2 Pokemon that are grass types, and 1 hits a lot harder because it has a way higher attack stat. And as we've learned with the first rival battle, grass types are definitely my kryptonite. Even with the move return, I still can't seem to manage to do enough damage because Swadloon is just a tank. He starts absorbing my attacks left and right, and as you can see, he lowers my speed so much so that when it comes time for Leavanny, I won't be able to do much against it if I get there at this level. I'm fortunate enough to know that Swadloon doesn't have a very good attack stat, so maybe I could set up on it after I boost the friendship level with Keldeo to the max, if possible, just so Return can do much more damage since it's the only move I have that I could currently teach it. If there's another move I could use, I'm not aware of it right now since I just tried going through this challenge with what I run into. So not only do I need to set up, I'm going to have good enough luck to not get hit by a critical hit Razor Leaf since that has a higher crit chance than normal. I got leftovers in the sewers and equipped it to Keldeo, so that heals some damage each turn. I actually lost here and lost about 5 more attempts before I went out to battle whatever I could, so let's try this again. After those attempts, I came back to battle Berg, not much higher in level, but just enough to where my strategy could come in perfectly. What's my strategy? Well, I've already talked about it a little bit earlier. Since we're at level 26, I'm hoping that Keldeo's friendship would be a lot higher, if not maxed out since I've had time to foster its friendship. I start setting up on the Swadloon, but it seems like every time I do use Work Up, it just uses Strength Shot. So after using Work Up a few times, 3 to be exact, I was able to one-shot the Swadloon with a single return. But now we're 3 stages lower in speed, which is crucial if we're going to beat the Leavanny. Since our Pokemon is much stronger than the normal playthrough, Dwebble isn't second here. Second is Leavanny. And you can literally see from this video that this thing is monstrous. It absorbs all of my attacks and even deals a lot more in return, so it's easy to see why I had to level up a few times before I had this battle. It's his ace Pokemon, but luckily we do not get hit by a critical hit Razor Leaf, but we do get dropped to 13 health, which sucks, but with leftovers, we can heal to about 18 health as we knock out the Leavanny. Last is Dwebble, and it has Sturdy. It works a lot different in this generation than previous generations because now, instead of it needing to be a one-hit KO move, any move that is a potential one-hit KO will leave it with just 1 HP. Unfortunately, it does get activated twice as it got healed, but we actually knock it out with an Aqua Jet, and now we have the 3rd gym badge. All of these attempts were really dragged out, so I'm glad it's over. The next gym we have to worry about is going to be the electric gym, which is actually next. Luckily, that type doesn't resist our water or fighting type moves. So now we have 3 gym badges, which means we can move on from Castelia City onto Nimbasa City. But before that, we have some business to take care of. We run into Colress again by the fountain at the back of the city. He says that he wants to show me something in the route above, which used to be a desert, but now it became gentrified and populated with houses. There are some crustle in the way that need to be woken up, which he uses a device that we actually get access to much later on in the story, but then challenges us to a battle. After the battle, we can move forward to Nimbasa City, where we actually see a pretty familiar face. The female protagonist actually needs our help to battle the subway heads, which is basically this game's version of the battle tower. I think that one of the brothers, Ingo, appears in the Legends of Arceus game. After that, we go to the gym, but Elisa isn't there at this time. She's in some carnival ride, but turns out she isn't there either since she returned to the gym. So we walk through the runway to find her at the very back where she's ready to take us on. Like I said earlier, Elisa here is an electric type gym leader, and we're water type, which means that we're probably going to lose here. So first is Emolga, and I'm betting I can take a hit or two, so I use Work Up, but it hits with Volt Switch, which takes away quite a bit of Keldeo's health, but she sends out Flaffy next, since that's Volt Switch's effect. Thankfully, we outspeed and use Bubble Beam, actually getting the knockout. I still have leftovers equipped, and I get to a little over half health, which is super beneficial. I'm so grateful that we outspeed the Emolga since that thing can be a real pest, and we make it faint with another Bubble Beam. This is going so well, and last here is Zebstrika. We use Bubble Beam and get a lucky crit, actually winning us the battle. I didn't think we would outspeed Zebstrika, but I'm not complaining. I'm thinking that if I hadn't leveled up, maybe I wouldn't have enough speed to strike Zebstrika first, but it didn't happen. As we leave the gym, Elisa actually walks down the runway with us. Elisa's defeat means we have 4 gym badges. We're halfway through this challenge. We departed from Nimbasa City and made our way towards Driftfell City. Apparently there's the old Team Plasma that follows In, and the new Team Plasma which follows Getsis. The old Team Plasma turned over a new leaf and now houses Pokemon that have been caught and or abandoned by the old and new Team Plasma. That was a mouthful. Our rival comes through and is pretty upset about the whole situation, but we get In's Zorua from it, which was pretty cool. Now we can move on to Battle Clay. He's a ground type leader which is going to go real smooth thanks to our water typing. Talk about a roller coaster of emotions with the gym leaders and their typings. So first is Croc Rock, and it has Intimidate, which lowers our attack, but it's okay since we have Bubble Beam, which uses special attack instead. It goes down in one hit, which really isn't surprising. Second is Sand Slush, and it really can't do anything as another Bubble Beam actually takes its life. And last is Excadrill. Maybe I would struggle a little against it if it had a Sandstorm setup, but it doesn't, which means that we can one-shot it with the third Bubble Beam. And now we have 5 gym badges. Once Clay is defeated, we have to make a detour towards the World Pokemon Tournament, which pits us against several trainers, 2 of them being Charian and our rival. However, all of those Pokemon are level 25 and we're much higher in level. We end up sweeping with only Keldeo, but then Team Plasma shows up and we have to battle everyone until we get escorted off the ship. With those things completed, we actually run into Professor Juniper in Mistralton City. She's checking up on how we're doing, and she's kind enough to give us a Master Ball, but I don't think we're going to be using that at all. Since we're in Mistralton City, we also run into Skyla, the gym leader for the city. She tells us that she's going to be waiting at the gym, so we make our way over there. Once we make our way through the maze that is the gym, we start the battle. She uses flying types, so we're at a disadvantage because we're also a fighting type. My strategy is going to be to set up on Swoobat with 1 or 2 workups, but I don't know how well that will go. So she sends out Swoobat as I send out Keldeo, and we start trying to set up. I lose a small chunk of HP thanks to Heart Stamp, so that's not bad. At least we can survive a couple of hits. Unfortunately, the Swoobat knows Acrobatics, which is a move that doubles its power if the user isn't holding an item. That hits for major damage. Even with leftovers, I don't think we're going to get far. On the following turn, we use the newly acquired Surf, only to get it to a Sliver, but we lose. Maybe if I was just a couple of levels higher. After 2 more attempts, I decided that I need to level up, so after a few rare candies, I try again at level 42. She starts off with Swoobat as Keldeo comes out, and we try setting up the workups to boost our stats, but she goes for an early Acrobatics, which knocks us to almost half health. Thankfully, we are still using leftovers, but after 1 workup, we go for Surf, and we manage to knock out the Swoobat, which is weird because I should have done more damage last time with 2 workups, but whatever, I'm not complaining. Skyla sends out Swanna as her second Pokemon, and I don't really have anything good, so I just opt for a Surf, which does a ton of damage. Swanna's Citrus Berry activates, healing her to about half as she lands an Air Slash. Our next Surf knocks out the Swanna. Not bad for a not very effective move, huh? The only reason I used Surf on Swanna was because the special attack stat was much higher than the attack stat for return. Anyways, we heal a little bit with leftovers as Skyla sends out Skarmory. It is no match for our Surf, but it does have Sturdy, dropping it down to 1 HP, but then it goes for Agility. I guess she didn't see the knockout potential, but she goes for a Hyper Potion on the next turn as we use Surf to get it back down to 1 HP. Thankfully, my plan was to keep Aqua Jet up until this point because it actually came in handy as we win the 6th gym badge. So that means we're 6 gym badges deep and we have 2 to go. We actually got pretty lucky there. Alright, now we can find Professor Juniper. For whatever reason, we have to find her, and this took me like 30 minutes in real time to find because I forgot to even check here. But we see her here, and after talking to her, we can head back to Mistralton City where we run into Bianca and Skyla. Skyla then flies us to another town that links up to Undella Town where we find our rival. I actually spent like an hour and a half going from here to Opelucid City, but I realized that I didn't save after I lost a gym battle, so I actually battled this rival 3 times before this one. I lost the first 2 times, won the third, and then had to reset for a 4th try because I hadn't saved. The strategy that I came up with was to go for a workup, and since Unpheasant used Taunt, I would just opt to attack from here on out. But Unpheasant likes to use Detect to shield itself from damage, but on the next turn we took it down with the Surf. Then Superior is sent out, and I've lost numerous times to it. I think I made the right choice when I gave him this Pokemon. At this time, we've learned Sacred Sword, which ignores stat boost, thankfully since Superior can use Coil, but I go for a Surf since it typically does more damage even with the resistance towards it since I gave Zoro here the Mystic Water to hold. It goes down, and last is Simisear that goes down quickly to a Surf. I made this battle look easy, but it really wasn't. Our rival then goes off to the north towards Opelucid City. There were a few Team Plasma things that happened earlier, like a double battle with the rival and Zinzolin, but we won and now we're in Opelucid City battling Drayden, the Dragon-type leader. He starts off by sending Druddigon as Keldeo comes out. We use our usual strategy of using one workup as Druddigon hits with a Revenge. We reattach leftovers so we heal passively. On the following turn, we use Workup again as Druddigon goes for another Revenge. Unfortunately, Keldeo does not learn Ice Beam, so I have to use the same moves I've been using. I use Surf because our special attack stat is about 40 points higher than our attack stat. I forgot to mention that I had to deposit all of my Pokemon before this because Druddigon used Dragon Tail. Yeah, he phased out the Keldeo and I thought to myself, yeah, I can't let that happen again, so I restarted. I didn't even think about that happening, so should I count that as a loss? I'll let you guys decide. But now we're at level 49 and Keldeo learned Swords Dance. We replaced the workup and now we have Swords Dance to help balance us out a little bit. Oh, Flygon went down to 1 Surf, and last is Haxorus. I'm not sure that he has much to use to knock us out, but we go for Sacred Sword to drop him to about a 10th health, but Citrus Berry activates healing him to right above healing range. We've got this one in the bag as we use one final Sacred Sword to knock out the Haxorus, winning us our 7th gym badge. Now that we've gotten our 7th gym badge, we just need one more to go before we can take on the league. However, there's still Team Plasma for which we need to take care. They come to Opelucid City by ship and start using Kyurem's power to make super solid masses of ice around the city. The only way to stop them is by battling one of their leaders and then leaving the city to make our way towards Humalao City before the Pokemon League. Okay, so this part right here is super embarrassing because it took me an hour before I realized that I could even walk past our rival here. Anyways, let's go ahead and start the battle. So this right here is Marlin, kind of like the fish, so you know that he uses water types. He starts with Caracosta, the water and rock type turtle. He uses Shell Smash that lowers defenses and raises speed and offenses by 2 stages, but it doesn't really do anything as we continue to set up our workups. I got rid of Swords Dance because it wasn't as versatile as Workup. Plus, he has a Jellicent at the end that is immune to 2 of our physical attacks, so Surf it is. Anyways, he heals the Caracosta because it has Sturdy, but we bring it back down to 1 HP, and on the following turn, we knock it out with another Surf. The second here is going to be Wailord. It has some garbage defenses, so Return should be able to do a ton of damage, and it does, knocking out the Wailord in 1 hit. And the last is Jellicent. It's a ghost and water type. I was afraid that it had water absorb, but nope, just Cursed Body, which is fortunate for us since we can spam Surf like usual. It heals with a Citrus Berry, but then it gets taken down by our next attack that turns out to be a crit. This was the first try, and I'm glad I came out on top. Now we have 8 gym badges, and we can move on to the last part of the Team Plasma side before the Elite Four. But before that, Marlin flips off the stage and swims away. You wanna know where he ends up? On this ship right here. Me and the rival just watch him casually walk off the boat. That was pretty funny. Anyways, he talks to us and then leaves before my rival and I board the ship, where we start battles left and right until it comes down to a double battle with the rival and Zinzolin and a Grunt. It was a pretty easy battle, but then we get escorted off the ship by one of the Shadow Triads. And as you can see, they show us where Kyurem is being abused right down below the floor there. They talk about the DNA splicers, which they stole from Drayden in Opelucid City during the last cutscene. But this cutscene is pretty cool. It shows us how they use the ship. They get away, but we end up finding them in the giant chasm, and we end up boarding the ship again, where we have to unlock these gates that remind me of Lieutenant Surge's gym. We walk up to the Kyurem, and immediately after that, Zinzolin appears behind us and challenges us to a battle, which we easily win because he carries Cryogonal, which are weak to fighting types. But after that battle, we have to fight probably the most difficult trainer for this run because he has grown exponentially since we saw him last in Castelia City, and that would be Colress. What's difficult about Colress? Well, most of his Pokemon are Steel types, which is the best type in this game. On top of that, they have the Sturdy ability, which is problematic because some of them are Electric types as well. Not only that, but we get paralyzed almost immediately. It doesn't make a difference if we have super effective moves against them if we can't hit them. I lost about 5 times before I equipped the Cherry Berry, hoping that he wouldn't use Thunder Wave. I had to go out and find one in the world because I just couldn't win. I even attempted at level 70 and still lost. Anyways, we battled 2 of his Pokemon, Magneton and Magnezone, and we're on to Klinklang that doesn't feint a Sacred Sword and just gets lucky. He heals it, but then I use a weaker move to help with the knockout on the next turn, where he sends out Behem. It's weird because this isn't a Steel type. We use Surf, but it survives and just uses Calm Mind to raise special attack and defense. Our next Surf actually knocks it out. Next is Metang, and it's level 50. It goes down to 1 Surf. Kinda silly not to have a Metagross at that level. He switched out the Magneton for Magnezone earlier, and now we have the chance to knock it out as it goes down to 1 Sacred Sword. Back as a kid, I thought this was the last battle, but it turns out we have another area where we have to go in order to finally draw this part of the story into a conclusion. Ghetsis has been behind the new Team Plasma all along. He talks to us for a minute before a Shadow Triad member keeps me in place. Our rival comes through the warp pad to help us, but gets frozen when he finds out the purloin his grandfather had given him and his sister has been a trusty sidekick to the Shadow Triad member all along and has evolved into a Liepard. He just sits around while we have to take on each member individually before moving on to the true battle. We got a nice little cutscene earlier, and now we have to battle Kyurem Black, which is several levels below us at this point. It's Dragon and Ice type, so a couple of Sacred Swords should do the trick, if not one. The first one does about 3/4 health, and the second one knocks it out, winning us the battle. Kyurem then splits back into 2 separate entities, and Ghetsis is now in disbelief. We end up finishing the Team Plasma side of the story, which means we can now move on to Victory Road, where we see In one last time. He ends up giving us the HM for Waterfall before he leaves, and now we can make our way through Victory Road, where we meet our rival one last time. He catches up to us at the end of Victory Road and challenges us to one final battle. As you can see, I'm way over leveled. This is basically a blind playthrough, and since it's been 10 years since I last played this game, I had a bad tendency of running into battles. Anyways, as usual, we use Work Up and then Surf to knock out the Pheasant. The second is Bouffalant, which is a normal type. It goes down easily enough to a Sacred Sword. It really didn't stand a chance. Third is Superior. I use Sacred Sword against it, but it survives only to use Coil to buff itself up. On the following turn, our rival heals it with a Max Potion, only to be taken down with 2 more Sacred Swords. The fourth is Simisear, and it feints to a Surf because it's a Fire type. And that was the rival battle. I think it's pretty easy to see why I like this rival so much. He was super involved in a good way. Now we can charge through to the Pokemon League. I head straight in, forgetting to heal, but I end up healing right past the gate. The first Elite Four member we will be up against is the Ghost-type user, Chantal. We are several levels higher, but I think we're still going to struggle here and there, especially if she inflicts us with a status condition like a burn. The battle starts, and she sends out Cofagrigus, which is pretty bulky. I send out Zoro, and immediately we start setting up. The only move that can hit them is Surf, so we really don't have to worry about using our attack stat. Cofagrigus inflicts a burn with Will-O-Wisp and then hits us with a Psychic on the following turn, but we exercise the Spirit to the afterlife with the Surf. The second is Drifblim, the Ghost and Flying type. We use Surf and end up crushing it with the Force of the Wave. The third is Chandelure, the Ghost and Fire type. Another Surf puts out the flames. We're at 13 HP and Golurk is last. It's Ghost and Ground type, so another Surf just eradicates it from this realm, and now we can move on to the next Elite Four member, which is a Fighting type user. I have to mention that I love these animations for the rooms. For those of you who don't know, you can choose to battle the Elite Four in any order. Anyways, here is Marshall, the second Elite Four member that I chose to battle. The first Pokemon he sends out is Throw. It too is bulky like Cofagrigus. I don't want it to use Circle Throw if it has it, so I opt to use Surf right away. Thankfully, it uses Bulldoze to lower our speed, but we outspeed still and wipe it out with another Surf. Second is Mienshao. I debate on using Workup, but follow through with Surf to annihilate it. Third is Keldeo. It has a really high HP stat, but really terrible defenses, so it gets washed out. Last is Sock. It has the sturdy ability, so I can use return to break its ability, and to prevent healing, so now I can use one final return to win us the battle. We're 2 for 2. Can we get there without losing? This is probably my favorite Elite Four room. The lone couch on the stage is really intimidating. The keeper of this room is Grimsley, the Dark type user. He starts out with our rival's life part as we send out Keldeo. It has Fake Out, which causes flinching, but we attack on the next turn with a Sacred Sword, causing it to faint. Second is Bisharp. It's Steel and Dark type, so it's 4 times weak against Sacred Sword. Third is Crocodile. It's Ground and Dark type, so we just knock it out with the Surf, especially since it had Intimidate. Last is Scrappy. It narrowly escapes death from a Surf, it misses an attack on Keldeo, it gets healed to full health with a full restore, and then expunged from existence 2 Surfs later. That's 3 down, and now is the last Elite Four member who was once a Tower Head in Gen 4. We are finally on the last leg of the journey. Maybe I lied earlier, but this is my favorite room in the Elite Four. Anyways, this is Caitlyn, the Psychic type Elite Four member. She sends out Masharna first. It's bulky and could knock me out, so I'm going to go ahead and set myself up first. Sadly, it uses Yawn, which causes sleep on the next turn, but I go ahead and use Workup. For whatever reason, she uses Yawn again, then we fall asleep. But luckily, I planned ahead and equipped the Chesto Berry, curing my sleep. We use Surf and knock out the Masharna. Second is Goth GF. We're way faster and KO it with another Surf. Third is Reuniclus, and it's no match for us either as it drowns in our Surf. Last is Sigilith, the Flying and Psychic type. Unfortunately, we've ran out of Surf, so we resort to Return since it hits for neutral. It survives, then gets healed, only to be brought back all the way down, and then knocked out on the following turn with a Return. And that's it, we're done with the league on the first try. Honestly, if we had just one more Surf, we wouldn't have found it difficult in the end, but that's it. We are now on to the apple of my eye, Iris. She's the champion in this game and she's pretty formidable. She specializes in dragon types but doesn't always use them. She's pretty hasty, so we start the battle rather quickly. Iris sends out Hydreigon, the dark and dragon type Pokemon. Zoro comes out and we get to work with Workup. Hydreigon hits a weak Dragon Pulse. On the next turn, we make it faint to Sacred Sword. It's always nice not having to rely on Surf. Anyways, second is Lapras, which is Ice and Water type. It never stood a chance since it's weak to fighting, so a Sacred Sword does it in. Third is Druddigon. It's a pure Dragon type. Sacred Sword doesn't knock it out as it hits a nasty Focus Blast, leaving us to half health. Iris heals it, and with a free turn, we use another Workup to buff our stats. A final Sacred Sword destroys Druddigon. Aggron, the Steel and Rock type, is next. It's 4 times weak against fighting, so naturally I use Surf. Archeops is 5th. It's rock and flying, so we squirt some water to knock it out. Last is Haxorus. We use Sacred Sword, but it actually survives. It sets up a Dragon Dance, and then it outspeeds us and uses Earthquake, leaving us with 20 HP, but Iris didn't heal, meaning that our next attack knocks out Haxorus, winning us the battle and this challenge. Honestly, I should name this challenge to how many Surfs does it take for Keldeo to beat Pokemon Black and White 2. And there's no doubt in my mind that if I had done a playthrough very quickly to refresh my memory on this game, we could have beaten it at a much lower level. With the challenge being done, I wanted to thank all of you for subscribing to my channel. It's grown exponentially with the previous run, so hopefully this video does just as well. As always, thanks to you, the viewer, for watching my content. Please like the video, comment because comments are good for the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to my channel. For our next challenge, I asked where, and someone requested for a challenge I've never seen done, so we will ask next week if we can beat Pokemon Black and White 2 with only choice items. Thank you and take care.